Is this whiskey the ultimate enthusiast's blended malt? I'm Jeff, this is Gwhisky, stick around. Alright, so Thompson Bros SRV5. This is probably one of the most talked about blended malts in the enthusiast scene right now. It's been nominated for an Oswa a couple times, although I don't think it's ever won. I think it keeps losing out to this guy. Either way, this is a widely available and affordable, age-stated craft blend that has garnered a good amount of respect. This stuff comes out in batches of 800 at a time, 800 bottles. The bottle I've got here is from batch 6. The name, SRV5, kind of an interesting name. It stands for Station Road Vat 5, which is referencing where they make this stuff. Station Road being a road, and Vat 5 being a vat. And that vat's actually a little bit interesting because after they've matured all their component whiskeys for 8 years, they put them all together in this vat and they let the whiskeys rest for a little bit. This is a 1200 liter European oak vat, and they actually use a Solera system here, meaning they don't completely empty the vat when they put out a batch. They leave some at the bottom, and then when the next batch comes in, it mixes together. Anyway, according to the website, this is made with a selection of North Highland, Islay, and Speyside single malts to create a vatted malt, which is bright and fresh and has a slightly waxy mouthfeel and gentle smoky balance. Sounds great. Now, Thompson Bros are a pretty popular brand these days. They have their fingers in a few different pots. They run the Dornick Distillery. They have some excellent IB releases out there, but I think probably what they're most famous for are these blends right here. By these, I mean this one and one other. Because along with this one, they've also put out a blended whiskey, meaning there is some grain whiskey in there. That one's called the TBBSW, I think that's the name. That's a 6-year-old, and that one appeals more to people who are looking for a heavy sherry influence. It's got this kind of rugged, dirty, old school sherry style to it. It's really good stuff. I have looked at it before on the channel. But if you want something that's a little bit brighter, cleaner, more distillate driven, and more in line with the classic Highland style, we've got this one here, which is all malt and 8 years old. Both of these bottles have been extremely well received. They've been embraced by whiskey nerds, not just because of their flavors, but also because of their prices. Because aside from being basically tailor-made for enthusiasts, they're also very affordable. So these guys are part of a new wave of producers that I think are really pushing the blend or blended malt category forward. You have these guys, you have Compass Box, you have Turntable, and you also have some brands that are tied more closely to specific distilleries, stuff like Lum Reek or Campbelltown Luck or McLean's Nose. There's a lot of good blends coming out these days. They're no longer boring or blended out or without character. These are much more considered whiskeys. So with that in mind, let's see about this one. Let's see where it falls into that spectrum of new wave enthusiast blends. Am I gonna like it? Let's find out. Let's jump into our review. In the meantime, if you'll kindly leave a like down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. So this gives us an ABV of 48.5%, which is great, and it is also non-chill filtered and natural color. For presentation, I do like the look of this bottle. I like that it's got kind of an artistic flair. Apparently the painting on the label was done by a Japanese artist who, if I read the blurb correctly, also works at a bar. Either way, looks great, looks artsy, 4 out of 5. We get a blurb on the back that says it's non-chill filtered and natural color. It also mentions the Solera vat a little bit. What this doesn't give us is the component whiskeys. It'll give us the region where they source them, but it doesn't give us the specific distilleries. They don't have to do that, but it's something that just as nerds, we kind of like to know sometimes. Some other brands do, just saying. But in terms of information, yeah, we're good. On the nose, this is fresh and bright and clean. We get lots of summery citrus notes like lime juice and lemonade. There's also some vanilla in here. There's some cereal, there's some barley, some green apples, some menthol or like eucalyptus type notes. There's some heathery floral notes in here. Now this does have an Islay component, so I'm looking for some smoky notes and some coastal notes. Coastal notes, yeah, I get a little bit. The smoky stuff, maybe traces of it. On the palate and finish, we get a nice measured arrival. There's a nice waxiness to this. Things start off gradually with fruit and smoke, with fruit being a much more prominent element. I get plenty of fresh apples and pears and orchard fruits in this. There is a faint sort of salinity, coastal, salty element to this. For smokiness, I didn't get much in the nose, but we definitely do get some on the palate. It's faint, it's not at the fore, but it's definitely present. Finally, this gives us a medium finish with vanilla, toffee, salt, and white pepper. So I like this stuff. I think it's clean, it's floral, it's waxy, it's not too cask driven, which is something I appreciate. And I also appreciate that this is not without character. This is not something that's been blended out. The whiskey has something to say.
Drink me!
Also, I think the Isla component here is really well done. If you're working with peaty whiskeys, it's very easy to have them overwhelm pretty much anything else unless you've got some very active casks involved. This doesn't have any dominant peat in it, nor does it have overly active casks. The peat that is there is well restrained and well integrated. For me, this is like McLean's Nose meets Compass Box Orchard House meets Craigellachie 13 meets Clynelish 14. I don't know if that paints a picture for you, but that's the direction of flavors that I'm getting here. McLean's Nose because we get a fair amount of gentle peat in this, and we also get a certain saltiness that I associate with a lot of Western Highlands or maybe even island type distilleries. Compass Box Orchard House because we do get a good dose of orchard fruits in this. I mentioned Craigellachie 13 because this does give us some weighty, hefty, almost slightly challenging or slightly rugged notes, particularly towards the finish. I would not be surprised if Craigellachie was a component whiskey in this. Finally, I mentioned Clynelish 14, which is famous for its just really bright, clean Highland profile with that waxiness. And with flavor cousins like that, you know this whiskey is in good company. This has impressed me quite a bit. I like this a good measure more than the TBBSW, which tracks because I prefer less cask dominant whiskeys anyway. But yeah, man, this is good. Honestly, I can't imagine too many people not liking this. This is not a weird or unusual profile in any way, and a lot of these flavors are going to be familiar if you're into whiskey at all. But the way everything comes together, it does still feel unique. It feels like its own thing. This is not over-engineered or smooth or generic, and while I would not say that this whiskey has any rough edges, there is just a little bit of that challenging, maybe slightly rugged element, like I said, a la Craigellachie 13, just enough for it to feel unique and to give it a bit of a kick. So this really does walk that fine line between being accessible for non-enthusiasts, but being interesting and engaging enough for nerds like us. I like that they didn't go too cask heavy here. I like what they're doing with that, Solera vat. I think that's kind of interesting. Overall, this just comes together beautifully. So score is going to be 86. I think this is a phenomenal blended malt, and I think it complements the TBBSW very nicely because, like I said, that one goes in that sort of dirty, funky, old school sherry direction. That one's a blend, meaning grain whiskey is involved, but it's still very funky, and there are some challenging elements to that. This one, oppositely, less cask dominant, more bright, more Highland style, but again, there is enough to keep us engaged. Both of them do very different things. They're at different ends of the flavor spectrum, but they both feel very much for us. Now, before we jump into value, I do want to say a thank you. So if you're on Patreon, if you're a channel member, if you're supporting this channel in any way, massive thank you, appreciate it. And if you guys want to help out, I have both Patreon and PayPal linked down below. Guys, this whole channel is just me, from the scripting to the shooting to the editing, 2 videos a week. It's loads of work, so any little contribution helps a lot because it makes me feel richer. I mean, appreciated. Now let's talk about value. For value, this is excellent. This costs just under 45 US in my market, just shy of 35 pounds, and it is worth every penny of that. So much so that I actually almost wanted to add an extra point, but I won't. We're going to keep it at 86, but it is a very enthusiastic 86, and I highly recommend this for the money you're paying. All right, guys, that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching. As always, I want to hear your thoughts on this one. So have you tried the SRV5 from Thompson Bros? What are your thoughts? How much did you pay? Was it worth it? Let me know all of that down below. Finally, down below, you can also let me know what you want to see me review down the line, and I will keep that in mind for my upcoming videos. Bye, guys.